Kansas City Sports Update Studios. Welcome to Kingdom Radio, where we talk about all things Kansas City Chiefs. Brought to you by Arrowhead Update. Join Chris and Richard on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Player FM, CastBox, and all third-party applications. Check us out on Facebook platforms such as Kansas City Sports Update and Arrowhead Update. And if you cannot find us there, Google or search Kingdom Radio and Kansas City Chiefs, and you will find us. Welcome to the Kingdom. How are we doing, Chiefs Kingdom? We have completed the game with the Steelers and Chiefs, and the Steelers lost to the Chiefs lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers 17-7, and what I would say a great defensive game for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I have Kris-Chavez here with me as always, our senior NFL analyst, to break down this game. What's going on, Chris? How are we doing?
Not much. A little disappointed in the offensive output, but other than that, it was a good game. So
let's start off with this the lack of offensive output here. And I want to ask you, Chris, and this is something that I, really honed in on, because if one thing that I noticed about Andy-Reid's play calling tonight is there was a lack of consistency. There was run, pass. Now, I guess my big question to you, Chris, and, I'm not sure if you looked at it on this aspect as well. My question to you is, did Andy Reid bring a mediocre play call into Kansas City, or into this game for Kansas City, because he knew that the Steelers were a formidable team here in the regular season?
I think he brought in the game plan that he felt that we needed to work on, and knowing their defense was going to be a good pass rush team, not necessarily blitzing as much as they did, but that they were going to give us problems up front. I think that he wanted to try to give the offensive line and the defensive or the running backs some chances to see more of the rushes play after play after play, as opposed to mixing it up consistently.
Fair enough. And also, I want to put this in perspective as well. This is our first game, for the Chiefs that all of our starters played and started. So I feel like that's a big deal, especially with the turnaround that we've had on defense and where we're going on offense, for our complete team to be on the field. Now, there was a 45-minute or hour and a half almost weather delay. Do you think that might have had an impact on Patrick-Mahomes? Because what was his stats? Patrick-Mahomes went 3 for 5 for 11 yards. We didn't really see much production out of the offensive starters. Do you think the weather delay had anything to do with that, or do you just think that we came out cold?
I think we just came out cold. When we came out, the weather looked fine. Field conditions looked good. I think it was more a matter of they just rushed through their warm-ups to get ready for at the new game time, as opposed to take their time and get loose like they normally do.
Okay, fair enough. So let's hop right into this game here. We're going to start out with the first drive. The Chiefs won the coin toss, and they deferred to Pittsburgh and kicked the ball off to Pittsburgh. And so our first drive was a 3-and-out by Kansas City without a Ben Roethlisberger. But what did that show, Chiefs Kingdom, as far as our defense is concerned and the direction that we're headed in? Because last game against, Cincinnati, we didn't stop them with our starters. And I feel like this was an overall better output by our defense. But what did you think of that first drive for the momentum, carrying out all the way through the first half with a 3-and-out?
Starting off with the 3-and-out definitely put the momentum in our favor, and kind of put the ball on our side of the field, so to speak, to see what we could have done with it. And then we just followed it up with, it was all passes, and Mahomes looked good on two of the throws, but overall it's just it was all passes the entire drive.
Yes, and Kelsey had a nice 5-yard catch, which shows us the continued progression of timing between Mahomes and Kelsey. But one thing I did want to take note on is, yes, it was a pass-heavy drive. Tyreek Hill also had a 5-yard reception. There's also a target Tyreek Hill that was incomplete. But Mahomes had multiple looks here. He had 2 blitzing plays from the nickelback in this drive, and also he had a disguise coverage where the nickelback acted like he was going to rush and then drop back in coverage. So he saw a lot of different looks here. And then also the third down play where Mahomes ran for 10 yards and then made a very nice, a smart play to slide down and down the ball instead of taking the hit. So it was a pass heavy possession, which ultimately ended in a punt. But I guess there were some good things to take away from that as well. So we saw some smart plays out of Mahomes, him sliding in on that first down play that I just had touched base on, and, on this run-heavy drive. But, Chris, I feel like that there's some decent things to take away from, the production that Mahomes had while he was on the field and some of the things that the offense did. But overall, it was kind of a lackluster effort. But we had talked about that, the first drive, the 3-and-out, and then the second drive, ended in a punt. So we're going to move on to the third drive here, and the Steelers got the ball. This is the drive that the ball was put on the ground. Kenneth Fuller made a hit on the receiver, and the ball was fumbled. And I believe that this was a call that got called back, and the Steelers kept the ball.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened there. Frank Clark was able to get some pressure on the quarterback play, though, which looked really good.
Yes, and so later here in the drive, a few plays later, this is where Alex-Okafor comes into the picture, and he gets his, sack in this game, which was also a third down play. You had made a comment to me online as we're watching this game, and you said, look at Alex-Okafor. He has Frank Clark's speed. Break that down a little bit, Chris. Let's talk about this. It was nice to see Okafor, get around the offensive line the way he did with his speed. Kind of tell Chiefs Kingdom what we have going on there. What's up with that, Chris?
Yeah, so coming off the snap, Okafor pretty much just sped around the right tackle, got the edge, and actually was completely coming back to the quarterback. Heck, I don't want to say necessarily untouched, but the right tackle hardly got a hand on him. And Okafor pretty much just had a straight line after he made the turn to hit Rudolph.
And, that's a really great example of never giving up on a play because, let's be honest, as the play progressed, to start the play, Okafor didn't have a line to the quarterback. He had to create that line, and as soon as he got around the offensive line, he had that beam and that laser to the quarterback. But it wasn't. It took work from Okafor and talent for him to be able to create this play and make this sack. And I think that's something that I wanted to hone in on because that's something to get excited about in Chiefs Kingdom because we're going to see this all season long. And if he's not doing it, Frank Clark is going to be doing it on the other side of the line.
As well as Chris Jones doing it up the middle.
Very true. And, there's a lot to take away from the defensive side of the ball with the Kansas City Chiefs. And so on Okafor gets the sack here. Kansas City gets the ball back again. This was what I was talking about with the balance. So, me and you just talked about how that was a pass-heavy drive. So then we turn back around and get the ball back, and then we changed to a run-heavy drive. And, I have this documented. I believe that we ran the ball 6 times on that drive that ended in a Carlos Hyde fumble. But that was kind of my telling tale of saying that there's no balance in Reid's play calling for this game. Is, you look at where the starters coming out on these first few drives and heavy passing and then heavy rushing. And, that could be, like you said, Andy-Reid getting a fit for, our running scheme and our depth. But also I think that that's, everything in the NFL, everything that has to do with coaching, there's a certain psychological aspect behind that. You don't want to give away any type of pattern that you might be running on your offense, and you don't want to give away any of your plays that you've created through the offseason. So we're here on this run heavy drive here, and like I said, Carlos Hyde fumbles the ball. But what was your take of Carlos Hyde in this drive? Were there some good things to take away? Oops, looks like I have lost Chris. Okay, so I don't know what's going on. I've lost him a few times, so I'm going to continue on this. So, okay, check it out, Kansas City. There are a few good things to take away from, this second drive. And all the rushing. We got to see some good production out of Carlos Hyde. You hate to see it end in a fumble, but it was still nice for him to get the touches that he did, and 5 touches for 26 yards, a 4.6 yards per carry average, and that's pretty much where we stopped on this drive. So we're really looking good on defense throughout these first few drives. Obviously, we keep touching the base on the offense and how that was lacking today. On the next drive, so the Chiefs punt the ball, we give the ball back to the Steelers, and we're still in the first quarter here. There was a lot of drives in the first quarter, and I think that was a good thing for the Kansas City Chiefs to kind of give us an idea, give us more of an idea and more of a look at our depth and our starters. I believe that we had 4 to 5 drives on the offensive side of the ball just in the first quarter. So we give the ball back to the Steelers, and on this drive, this is where Damian Wilson recovers a fumble. And that kind of put the exclamation point on everything that we had brought to the table defensively against the Steelers. Also, Herb Miller. This is the man who forced this fumble. Herb Miller, I want to put an exclamation point on this man because he's one of the players in this game that I feel like should be focused on because he made such an impact. And we're talking about an undrafted rookie that is coming on this team and making play after play after play. So this was a passing play. Herb Miller first forces the strip fumble, and Damian Wilson recovers. So we get the ball back. Also on this drive, Tyrann Mathieu leaves the game with a shoulder issue, which doesn't seem to be too serious, and I think that we would have pulled him anyway. So the Chiefs get the ball back, and here's the deal. From here on out, Henne looked horrible. There are a few good plays here and there, but let's be honest. Chad Henne, you really dropped the ball here. And no pun intended, because you did fumble the ball, late in the game as well. But you really had a horrible game tonight, and I didn't like anything that came out of Chad Henne's lack of production. We had a 3-and-out on his first drive. Then we punted the ball, which was a muff punt. I wish we could have recovered that, but that also shows what we're doing there on special teams, which had a decent night as well. So we have the 3-and-out, give the ball back to the Steelers. This is the 7th drive in the first quarter. And then they turn to their running game, and James Conner takes over, and then that is really, they didn't really do anything in that drive. It ended in a punt, but that's when the Chiefs' first-string defense got pulled. Our first-string offense was already pulled. So then, we hop into depth. And look, we had a scoreless first quarter. The big things to take away was how great our defense played and how lackluster our offense played on all levels and all depth. So I look at our first quarter our first half is our first quarter. Is absolutely a victory for our defense. Herb Miller looked great. Alex-Okafor recorded his sack. So we go into the second quarter. Chad Henne continues to look terrible. We have to punt the ball again, give the ball back to the Steelers, put it inside the 10-yard line. This is where the long drive happens. The Steelers go down the field and end the drive on a 20-yard rushing touchdown and put the Steelers up 7-0. But this is also the drive where Ben Neiman and K-Pass really stepped up. And this is also the drive that K-Pass played defensive tackle and defensive end. And Chris and I touched base on that before and, said that our defensive line is going to be versatile and we were going to see everybody playing all over that interior defensive line. And that held true tonight with K-Pass, and he made some noise. I feel like he did a good job of stuffing the run up the middle. So at this point, the Chiefs are down 7-0. To be perfectly honest with you, I was at a point where I felt like, hey, the Chiefs might have a game here where we can lose this, and ultimately we did 17-7. With Henne being as stagnant as he was, the only really spark that we had out of our depth, in the second half, or even at any point in the game, Darwin Thompson really stepped up and showed us, what he can do, and he had some great plays, a 15-yard first down run, another first down run on this drive, and then ultimately, Chad Henne got a touchdown pass to McCole Hardman, 17 yards, and that tied the game up 7-7. And so that's the score that we took into the half. And I want to touch base on some highlight players of the first half and really the game in general, because when we take off into the second half, I'll have to say that the tempo slowed down. It appeared to be Andy-Reid turned the game more into a clock management with a lot of running. It looked like he was trying to get the game over with and see a few things that he wanted to see within the depth. So, but these highlight players in the first half, Alex-Okafor, he had his sack in the game, which was really a nice play and showed just how much athleticism that this man carries in his game. Also, cornerback Herb Miller, I want to say that this man is probably the player of the game for me. With all the plays that he had, and like I said earlier, he was an undrafted rookie, but he had a forced fumble, a pass deflection that almost turned into an interception, and he really played a huge role in our defense tonight. K-Pass looked great. We talked about him. Damian Wilson also looked nice as well. He had a really nice drive there in the first half. Obviously, Darwin Thompson, we just touched base on him. Ben Neiman made some great plays. And we also can't leave out McCole Hardman because he scored that touchdown that we just touched base on as well. So we go into the half 7-7. Mahomes had his first drive, 2 for 5 for 11 yards. Basically, our big role with this is let's get Mahomes and the starters out of the game. We don't want to keep them in too long. So there was a few plays, the Steelers were knocking on the door there in the last half, the last series of the first half. And luckily, the Chiefs were able to hold off the Steelers and go into the half 7-7. So we go into the second half automatically. I kind of lost track of my notes here. One second. Okay, so wait. In the first half, I kind of got ahead of myself. Charvarius Ward had the interception in the end zone with a 50-yard return to end the first half. And I do want to touch base on that because that was a big play. The Steelers could have gone into the half 14-7, but the Chiefs' defense, second string, made a big stand. And we, had an attempt to take the lead here at the end of the second half. There was some huge plays. Byron Pringle got us down to the 40-yard line with 5 seconds left, and Butker goes out there and tries a 58-yard attempt. And, it had the distance, but it was wide right, which ended the first half. But, hey, that's a 58-yard attempt. And to see him have the distance, that's something to get excited about as well. I have full faith in Butker, and that's a 50-50 shot, people. This is one of those things that if you expect a man to make a 58-yard field goal, you haven't been in the business too long. So let's move into the second half here, which was more clock control by Andy-Reid and the running options. Damian Williams got a bunch of looks here in the second half. And that was well needed. And look, I'm kind of impressed by what I saw by Darrell Williams, and Byron Pringle had a nice reception. And I do want to say here, Marcus Kemp was carted off the field with a knee injury, and I do want to kind of keep in tune with that and see what's going on with that. Also, Braylon Speaks left the game with a knee injury, and the Honey Badger with what was that? Shoulder injury? I can't really remember. We touched base on that earlier, but those are the 3 injuries. So Darrell Williams really had some nice runs and showed us a few things. Carlos Hyde looked decent, but he also had that fumble there in the first half. So our running game, decent. It's lackluster, and I look for us to progress with that here in the upcoming weeks. Blake Bell had a nice reception, during this big drive with Darrell Williams. And, the depth at tight end, which I'd questioned in the pregame show, kind of showed us a little something there, but I'm still worried about that. So we ultimately punted on a 6-minute drive. Like I said, this is clock control. We had the ball the first 6 minutes of the third quarter. And this was the only play that our special teams gave up a big play on. And is a 40-yard punt return by Pittsburgh. So here's the deal, Kansas City. The Chiefs really had some great things on defense. There were some horrible calls by the officiating. The touchdown call that put the Steelers up 17-7, that was not a catch, Kansas City. I think we clearly saw the ball hit the ground, and I can't believe that they made the call as quick as they did. That was a blown call in my mind. So, look, K-Pass was disruptive. Darren Lee was creating balance there in the third quarter. We held the Steelers to some 3-and-outs. We went 3-and-out. It really didn't look pretty in the second half, but there's a few things to take away from it. The Steelers went ahead, with that touchdown, went up 17-7. And then we came out with a 2-minute drill, and Chase Litton started driving us downfield and then threw a pass, which was fumbled inside the 20, which ultimately ended the game, and the Kansas City Chiefs lost 17-7. Chris, I'm sorry I lost you tonight, buddy. We thought that there was going to be a better outcome to this game, but I also don't think that we showed much at all as far as preparation to a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that's what I'm going to take away from this game. Stagnant offense. We had some great plays on defense. I feel really good about what we can take away from our defensive output against a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers, even though Ben Roethlisberger did not start this game. So Kansas City, we hate to see a loss. We're going to go into next week with our heads up. This isn't a big deal. It's preseason. We have a lot to look forward to, Chiefs Kingdom. Like Patrick-Mahomes says in the franchise, this is just the beginning. We will hold our heads high, and we'll look at this as a victory for defense. I don't know what's going on with offense, but let's ride out this defensive wave. Kansas City. This is the post-game show for the Kansas City Chiefs Pittsburgh-Steelers game. Final score: Pittsburgh 17, Kansas City 7. Kansas City, you have an amazing night. Thank you for tuning in to Kingdom Radio, your go-to podcast for everything Kansas City Chiefs.